Next property on our agenda today is number 67 Franklin Street. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak to number 67 Franklin Street? I probably wouldn't normally allow this, but considering it's two separate properties.
My wife can speak.
If you can keep your comments brief. I'm just trying to make sure we're fair to everybody.
All right, yeah, it's a separate property, and I happen to be sandwiched in between two pretty good ones. Again, I'm Mike LaFramboise, owner of Made CNY and Underground Inc. We've been at the location now for just about 10 years, a decade, and we used to have quite a bit of issues. Tinkers doesn't seem to be an issue. I have an agreement with John Mortimer that his customers can park in my parking lot after hours when I am closed. And in return, he'll pick up the parking lot and he mows the grass at 69 Franklin for me. So it's a pretty good relationship. But with 67, the smoke shop, everybody seems to think that it's their parking lot. So I've got a lot of traffic. They block my back entrance. Like again, I've got potholes everywhere. I put signs up. The signs never really got stolen until 67 Franklin, the smoke shop, arrived. They're also driving over my grass. There's a little driveway in there. They're driving over the grass and making a mud pit. I was informed by, Auburn City Ventures, they own 67 and they own that apartment building there. And I've got kids selling drugs that stand right out back. It used to be the sign shop. There's 4 or 5 kids that'll stand out there. They don't care if it's below zero out. They're out there standing. We have plenty of camera footage. And they informed me that it was even, it was the smoke shop and the owner of the smoke shop that had been driving over the grass. I mean, it's a complete mud pit. I wish I could take pictures, but I can't because I have a snowbank there right now. But it's total disrespect. And again, being there 10 years, I've also noticed a huge spike in activity and crime in our back parking lot. You open up the door, and it's like the Twilight Zone. The cops have been there multiple times. Apparently, I had one white guy trying to fight 5 black guys out there. The one black guy had a stick, and he was trying to beat him with it. I had two ladies out in front of Tinker's in a knife fight. The smoke shop has been robbed at gunpoint. Burned Dairy has also been robbed at gunpoint recent. I opened up the door one day. There was this gentleman but followed by his girlfriend. He said she was trying to beat him with she had pepper sprayed him. He picked up a rock in my parking lot, came toward me to attack me when I told him he couldn't be back there doing that. Grabbed the rock, turned around, threw it at her. Police shortly arrived. Recent, we had a gentleman chasing somebody with a board with a nail in it. The police were there, they had left, and then we had the kid come back into our front door saying, that gentleman's back, he now has a gun, he's gonna shoot me. I have now recently decided to close my shop at 6 o'clock in the evening. I do not allow any of my employees to be there unless I am there in the evening. It's totally, like I said, we've been in business for over 10 years, or 15 years in this city, and it is just crazy that we're trying to work hard and we're trying to do the right things, and I fear for my employees' welfare to be there when I am not there. If I have to close early, if my son has a basketball game at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I close my business down. I don't leave anybody there to work anymore. It's just not a safe place. My wife is there. I have another young girl. She's 23 years old, great kid. You know what I mean? It's a terrifying place to be. You open up that back door, it's like the Twilight Zone. And there's been a huge spike since smoke shops showed up. We have multiple people come in.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to cut you off again just to stay consistent with our rules of procedure. So I appreciate, again, your comments. And again, you've mentioned a few things that can't engage you with right now, but I will have some city staff follow up with you on a couple of issues that you mentioned that are somewhat unrelated to this. Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to number 67? Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
My name's Emma Framboise, and business with Michael. Just a couple things. We have added like extra security lights, dustal down lights, extra cameras, but even extra lighting. It doesn't make a difference to anybody around there. But a lot of times too, like if we have free time and we see all these vehicles coming in and whipping through, I do run outside and say like, where are you going? Why are you parked here? And they're like, we're only going to the smoke shop. And that turns into an argument with people too. And we have gone to the smoke shop and told whatever that guy's name is, like, you need to tell your people that they're not coming on our property, and and then it causes a bicker back and forth with him. But a lot of the instances too with them, I don't call the police every 5 seconds, like they would be there constantly. I don't want to waste you telling someone they can't park here when I think our cops are needed other places rather than being a parking enforcement officer, you know? I think just people are pretty disgusting that visit there a lot of times, and it's making the whole neighborhood horrible. A lot of people don't go to Tinker's that used to go like a lot of times after work to have drinks. I'm sure you know, and our business in the evening is definitely taking a dive as soon as it starts getting dark out in the winter, because no one wants to be around that neighborhood, especially in the evening. But, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to number 67, Franklin? Okay. Chief Slayton.
We've had two recent serious criminal activities there where the smoke shop was robbed at gunpoint, and then also robbed where somebody used cut glass to threaten people within the smoke shop. We've had a lot of traffic issues in that area. As of recent, on February 7th, we executed a search warrant on that property and took out illegal marijuana, vapes that they were selling, hemp. So we do have an active ongoing case regarding the sale of illegal substances in that facility. But it has definitely become a nuisance to the police department in a very short period of time.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Fritz?
So we've been there, fire and EMS, 3 times recently. 2 of them tied to the serious incidents that the police chief spoke about relative to actions taken there. And then we were there to assist them the day they issued their or utilized their search warrants.
So, and now you've had your time. Thank you. I appreciate it. But if you have additional comments, you can communicate with us, one of our staff members, at some point after the fact, especially if you've got something pertinent to look at. So this situation is slightly different than many of the other ones that we talked about today, whereas there's really not much of a code enforcement component, and it's not necessarily so much of a neighbor-generated complaint, although we do have a number of folks in the neighborhood that have written in and submitted formal complaints through the process. But this was a review of this property was generated essentially internally out of concern from the police department. And there certainly are some legitimate incidents that have happened here. Corporate Counsel, I guess I would ask your opinion on taking action based on some of the things that we have seen. The police department has certainly, obviously, and it's been in the media, taken some action at the property. There are arrests potentially pending, but until those arrests go through the legal system, what kind of grounds do we have to take further action here based on those things?
Well, Manager, the arrests themselves can be a basis for a declaration of nuisance. So once the police department finishes their process regarding the voluminous amounts of contraband that were seized pursuant to the search warrant, our process here can then start. I will just note that Chief Slayton's and the PD's efforts have resulted in an outside consultant whose specialty, as I understand it, is working with the municipalities to combat this smoke shop issue. That person has reached out to our office and has offered her services to help us with this particular problem. So I would, I guess, recommend that we take the opportunity to speak with that person, get their insight while the police department finishes up their process. And then after that, I think that, it's my opinion, that we'll have strong grounds for action, whether it be administrative or through litigation.
The other unique aspect, I think, of this case is that oftentimes when we're talking about a property, there are properties that are owned by one individual or entity, but not occupied by that same individual or entity, so that there's at least some argument that they didn't know what was going on at their property. This seems to be different in that we have a business owner that's occupying the property and allegedly carrying out the activities. They are not, I guess for lack of a better term, they're not the victim of other people's actions. They are the cause of the action.
I would agree with that.
Okay. What is your recommendation as far as timeline and administratively moving forward? I guess I should ask the chiefs for your thoughts on this, because it sounds like this will be one of the properties that we do move ahead and take some action with, some significant action.
On the police side of it, I would like to see this closed sooner than later. We can work on the arrest portion of it. And to make note, they were open 2 days after we seized a bunch of property. So we have not been back in there to see what else was brought back in. It takes a little bit of while working with the state of taxation and finance, but on our end, I can see what local charges we have to get into criminal court to make that process happen a little quicker.
So I would agree that this property is rapidly becoming an eyesore to the neighborhood and creating numerous concerns of nuisance and safety for the residents and the property owners in the area. So obviously we have process, but like the chief, I would like to see us move as quickly as we can to take action.
Counselor, what do you see as the process moving forward with this?
Well, Manager, I believe that a meeting has been or will be set up with this outside consultant on the first full week of March. We can then get her feedback as to overall, globally, how we should attack this problem. And it sounds like at that time we'll have likely have some arrests and criminal charges that I can look at to see and give an opinion as to where we should go from here on out. But again, if this is not a matter of days, it's a matter of a week or two before we can actually have all the information that we need to start the process in motion.
So as part of our process, we need to notify the property owner of a potential hearing, correct?
Yes.
So would we want to essentially create a placeholder for that by virtue of our action here today, or is that something that needs to wait on
I guess
further actions?
If this committee so desires, a letter can issue putting the property owner on notice that their presence is required by this committee for the March meeting. That certainly gives them enough time to at least start up some sort of dialogue with the city, and then a hearing, formal hearing, if that's the decision of this committee, can be set at the March meeting, regardless of whether or not they're in attendance.
Okay. Chiefs, how do you feel about doing an actual formal hearing on this property in the March meeting? I believe it's March 16th also.
I would agree going forward with that.
I concur.
So just to be clear, the hearing would have to be for April.
Okay.
But we would, I think the most courtesy that we can extend to the property owner is to let them know that we want them here, this committee so desires, in March, and hearing will be held in April, regardless of whether or not they attend.
Okay. All right, with that said, for clarification, we'll send notification to the property owner of number 67 Franklin Street of next month's meeting and a pending hearing for the April meeting. Okay. Shelley, could you call the roll?
Yes. James Slayton, Police Chief.
Yes.
Mark Fritz, Fire Chief.
Yes.
Jeff Diger, City Manager.
Yes.